for the people that can't make it. So hi to everybody. I've just started the recording for our first weekly Zoom session for Laws 12068 IP law. And I'm AJ. I've already said hello to all the lovely people here, and we've worked out that we're mostly Queenslanders, a couple of New South Welsh people, and we're all fairly eager to get across the line with IP law, given that it seems to be an elective unit that's been picked up by a lot of people towards the back end of their degree, which is kind of nice because by this stage of your degree, you've kind of worked out what you like, what you don't like. You're not afraid to say what you like, what you don't like. And that's something that I really appreciate in terms of our interactions, is your feedback to me. Anytime you want to leave me some feedback, I've given a link underneath every week's materials for Moodle. Give me a shout out, just tell me if there's anything I can do for you, something I can improve on, something you want to give me props for, you know, all that kind of stuff. I'm really big on communication, and any time that you're feeling even the slightest bit apprehensive about any aspect of the course, please come and talk to me, because I'm sure that we can clear things up for you with minimum fuss. So having said that, I guess you guys have all gotten into Moodle. Have you managed to get onto the site yet? Yep. I think most people here have managed to. The first big thing that I wanted to bring up in relation to the unit was for you guys to select your workshop presentation week. And I think from the names, I recall most of you, but for those listening at home, if you haven't yet selected your workshop presentation week, please jump onto Moodle and go down underneath the heading workshops for the first weekly set of materials, and you will see a link right there for you to go in and select your workshop. So please do that without further delay. A lot of the topics have already been closed off. I think there's one topic left, and if we get too many more late enrolments, I know there's a couple in the wings, we may have to do a presentation in week 12 and duplicate one of those other topics in week 12 to accommodate the extra new people. But I'll keep you updated on that as I get fed the enrolment numbers through. So thank you all for jumping in early and getting organised and nominating the week you want to present in. So far as assessment is concerned, I mean, that's a nice segue into the whole issue of assessment for this unit. The first thing that you will need to do, the first piece of assessment, is that presentation and written paper. And I suppose that you've all had a little look at what that entails in the weekly notes. But there is, for those listening at home that have no clue about what I'm talking about, you will see that weeks 8, 9, 10 and 11 have been scheduled as presentation weeks, and you will need to do this assessment counts for 50% of your mark in the unit. You need to do a presentation, so you and 3 of your colleagues will take over, as you were, a presentation week. So if you're presenting in week 8, you and 3 of your colleagues will lead the Zoom session for week 8. And the topic that you will be presenting on and talking to is set out at length in the week 8 materials. You need to make sure that you collaborate with the people that are in your group. You work out roughly how things are going to flow in the presentation, who's going to be taking which pieces of information to talk to, and how you guys can best present. So whether you're going to do a little PowerPoint presentation, whether you're going to use a Prezi presentation, whether you're just going to be your fabulous selves, and you know, I and all the other attendees at the weekly session will be listening to you guys present, but also what you need to do is try and encourage discussion around the topic that you have been presented with. Okay, so part of what I'll be looking at in terms of your presentation skills is your ability not just to sit and be a talking head, but also to elicit information and discussion from your colleagues that are attending that presentation, and how well you work in terms of the flow of the presentation and handing over to your colleagues and making sure that everybody gets roughly about the same time. I mean, I'll certainly be keeping tabs on time. If you like, I'm happy to say, to give you, you know, a 2-minute warning time when there'll be a rough split as to when the next person should be presenting. But that's how the presentation will run. I think it's really important to hone your presentation skills. I mean, how does everybody feel about your presentation skills? I guess by the back end of your degree, you should be fairly confident with your presenting skills. Anyone want to jump in? I see some heads nodding. Yep. Anyone got any queries on that point?
Actually, I just want to say, if anyone is considering doing legal advocacy and hasn't done it yet, that will certainly aid in your presentation skills. I know that Carla, I think, and Joselita have probably done that, and it's definitely worth doing.
Yeah, absolutely. When I went through my degree program, I mean, this is in the dark ages, we didn't really have a unit like that was comprehensively devoted to fostering this kind of stuff. I mean, we had the odd moot here and the odd moot there, but then all of a sudden you were thrust into practice, and then you were, you know, in my case, I had to lead some weekly CLE meetings, and you just kind of stuck there like a deer in front of headlights and not really knowing how to handle a group of people and talk to a group of people. So I would totally applaud that. Legal advocacy skills, go do it. It's an awesome unit. As well as for your 50% for that first piece of assessment, you've, apart from the actual presenting bit, the live presenting bit, within a couple of days of your presentation, I'll need you to hand in your own written work in relation to that topic. And whilst I am very encouraging for you to collaborate and share all your research with your colleagues that you're going to be presenting with, ultimately when I get your written paper, your actual write-up of that topic, that will need to be your own work. I mean, you guys are all familiar with plagiarism and how that all fits together with originality and so on. So you'll have a 2,000 word paper that you need to turn in, like I said, within a couple of days of your presentation. The reason why I haven't made it contemporaneous, when I was at UQ and QT, I found sometimes when students were leading presentations, they really did actually gain some quite valuable insights into the presentation process as a result of the presentation. So it wasn't really until after they presented that they really kind of realised what they did right, what they did wrong, how they could learn from what they did. So I've got this 500 word reflection that accompanies your more theoretical academic work, so that you can reflect on how you did in the presentation or how you feel that you did in the presentation, and that can inform your written paper, and it certainly will definitely inform your 500 word reflection piece. So hopefully you'll find that an enjoyable process. Deliberately it is all towards the back end of the unit when you're quite comfortable with each of the IP rights, because we'll be covering in a more theoretical way each of the IP rights from week to week during weeks 1 through week 6, I think it is, through week 7. And so that's really, those preliminary weeks of the course are designed really unashamedly to give you a very practical grounding in each of the IP rights so that you're quite confident in playing around with them, thinking through the impact of different current debates on the IP right concerned, so that by the time you get to weeks 8, 9, 10, 11, you'll be quite happy to think quite critically and in a detailed fashion before you do your presentation and your written paper there. Okay, so that's the way the unit's divided up. The first half really is quite a practical look at the IP rights themselves. And in fact, we'll get started on the problem, hopefully if we have time, towards the back end of today's Zoom session. But what I've done, has anyone done any problem-based learning before? No, don't see any hands? No. Okay, so what we're doing with problem-based learning is I've done one meta problem. And that problem will be informing and guiding our weekly Zoom sessions from weeks 1 through to about week 5. Okay, so that one problem will have references in it to pretty much every IP right that we're going to be discussing, so that as we go along week by week, you can start to tease out your knowledge of that fresh information that you've got that week in relation to your new IP right, okay? And the reason why I've done it this way is quite deliberate, because when a client comes in and plops themselves down, you know, across from you and says, you know, I have this problem, what they do is they don't say, oh, well, I have a problem and it involves a little bit of copyright law and a little bit of passing off, and I think there's a trademark issue, and there could be a patent issue as well. They don't, unfortunately, make our lives easy like that. It's messy. What they do is they plop themselves down and they go, blah, 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 usually because they're very upset. Blah, 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 and they narrate a long story for you. And, you know, if you haven't kind of fallen asleep on the desk during the whole thing, what you will discover is that they are trying desperately to communicate not just their problem to you, but their need for a relationship. And so what you've got to do is, to some extent, step back from your legal knowledge a little bit and develop that client relationship. Half the time they just want to be held by the hand. The other trick with these things is to then re-engage with what they've told you and sift through everything and pull it out piece by piece according to the headings that you would conceptually have in your head. Okay, this is what goes on in legal practice, and it's not a quick process, but hey, that's why we're paid the big bucks per hour. Or if you're an in-house counsel, your task is perhaps a little bit more delicate, because quite often it'll be one of the board members, or heaven forbid, the CEO, plopping down in front of you and going, oh my gosh, we've just found this trademark infringer and they're also passing off and they're also doing this and blah, blah, blah. And half the problem there is you will get somebody that thinks they know the legal conceptual headings to present in front of you, and they will present it that way, but you then again have to step back and say, let me just go through that and work out if the headings they've given me are actually the headings that I need to be exploring and using in relation to what they've actually told me, the narrative or the story that they've told me. So that's why I've got you in problem-based learning for the front half. And then, as I said, you'll be pretty happy to tinker around with your knowledge of each of the IP rights after that, and you'll be all guns blazing to go into a nice little critical piece for me on your hot debate in IP, whatever topic you've got from weeks 8 through to week 11. Does that make sense to everybody? Does anybody have any questions on that? No, we're all good. Okay, moving on. The second piece of assessment is a 40% piece. That, in fact, if you wish to start, you may get going on right now. I've given you the 2 broad topics in your week 1 notes. And because this is an elective and because I know that you guys are hankering to get your views across, I am more than happy for you to think about tweaking these topics that I've presented. They're just guides for you. If you want to, take a topic that I've given you and run with it, by all means, just do that. But if you actually have a bee in your bonnet about some particular form of IP and you would desperately love to do a bit of an extended treatment on that, something that you can chip away at over the course of the term, then, come and pitch your ideas to me and we can settle on a topic. If you want to do it that way, I would advise that you get your proposed topics to me sooner rather than later, because obviously you'll need to put yourself in the position of getting going on your research sooner rather than later. So those topics are on page 2 of the week 1 notes. So have a little look at those. That will be a 2,000-word paper there. And then what I've done, just to dangle a little carrot in front of you all, we have a 10% participation mark for group discussions, okay? And that 10% participation mark will be for your wonderfully insightful and pithy comments that you wish to post to the forums or to Twitter. I am on Twitter. Does everybody have my handle for Twitter? No. If you've got a pen, it is at laws12068 _ AJG, at laws12068 _ AJG. So if you want to post me some comments and queries, even if you just have a quick question that you need to ask me and you've sent me an email and I haven't responded quickly enough, because I know you guys are all Gen Zs and you need that communication happening like right now. If you need something urgently, whack it up onto Twitter. If you don't or can't access Twitter, like I said, old-fashioned email is the way to go. So the group discussion mark will be for your cumulative discussions, wherever and however. So if you're participating for those folks at home that can't do the synchronous discussions like this, post to the forums. You guys, if you're participating synchronously, I'm more than happy. I would welcome you all to still post to the forums and post to Twitter. Just go ahead and post. Tell me what you love. Tell me what you hate. Tell me those weird thoughts that you get at 3 o'clock in the morning, like, do dogs bark in the same language? Post things up for us all to consider, and the more we can discuss and communicate, I think the more enjoyable it's going to be for us all. So that's the little carrot for group discussion. Any queries on any of the assessment items? Yes.
I just noticed, looking at the assessment on the Moodle thing, the due dates were like 2015 on my one anyway. I think for the 40% one, I looked today, it said like 231 days overdue. So, that's when I usually submit my papers too. So maybe you need to look at that, because I will. What happens with the Moodle sites, it shouldn't be that way, because I did correct it on the unit profile. Were you looking at the unit profile, or were you looking at something else? Maybe I was looking at something else. I'll explore it a bit more, and maybe I was looking at the wrong thing. Okay,
can you shoot me just if you can still find where you found that incorrect information?
Sure.
Can you just let me know so I can correct it for everybody else, Jacob? That'd be really
okay.
Thanks. What they do from the teacher's end of things is just to make it really easy. The last time the course was run, they just use that Moodle shell and they empty it into a new Moodle shell. So if you're not careful and you don't do your weeding and your pruning properly, these things can crop up. So
they're always trying to, improve the look of the Moodle every term. And I don't know, I suppose maybe there are improvements, but I wish they just leave it looking the same.
Yes, I know. There's something.
I'm easily confused.
Yeah, there's something to be said for familiarity, isn't there?
Maybe it's good. Pushes it to adapt.
I know, right? I know. Well, if there's anything I can do to improve the look or feel of things for you on my site, just let me know. Again, this is something that I'd really love you to post to feedback, because these kinds of snippets of information are really valuable from my end of things. So please do post comments like that.
If we do get into answering the question within this hour, just don't call on me, okay? Because I'm only halfway through the reading, and I'm sure other people will put their hand up. All right.
This session is not meant to be.
Yeah, the first week one is just going through admin stuff. So
yes, yeah.
I'll post something when I'm prepared. Okay.
Absolutely. Good man, Jacob. Look, this is just a howdy-doody session, really. Like I said in my, I don't know if you got my my forum post or my email today, but I think in one of them I said, this is our first IP party. Bring some chips, dip, and a friend. It's really just about getting to know each other. And
I read that. But then you said, I'm just joking. So I had dinner.
You see, a lecturer always has to be a bit of a dark horse. There has to be.
So you're colourful. You change from some other lecturers, but it's good.
Look, if you need me to tone it down a little, I'll try.
No, don't tone it down.
I can't guarantee anything, I'm afraid, Jacob. This is me at my worst.
Shut up now.
So that's assessment. I've already talked about the breakup of the unit being front half problem-based stuff, getting to know the IP rights, back half, you showing me how wonderful your collected knowledge is. Any queries on the breakup of the unit and how we're going to be running things? No, we're all pretty happy with that. That's good. Oh, someone said I'll take a carrot. Thanks, Bianca. I love a good sense of humour. I think that's what'll get us all through in this. And you know what? I don't say this lightly, but, as far as I'm concerned, in this unit, everyone starts off at a 7. It's up to you guys to get yourself across the line at 7 standard. I'm not one of those lecturers that pushes and says, look, you're never going to make it through this subject, you're never going to pass this subject unless you work and you keep all your knowledge to yourself and you huddle it all away, and then you come out with this marvellous paper at the end that shows your pearls of wisdom. I think that we need a lot more discussion, we need a lot more interaction, we need a lot more openness in terms of sharing of our opinions, sharing of our legal research and all of that kind of stuff. I mean, yes, we need to do individual papers, but for this unit, because it's such a vibrant part of law and because it's always changing, I mean, seriously, I tweeted out 2 cases just today. One is squarely on the topic we're going to be talking about next week, which is copyright law. And another one is for our discussions in week 6 on infringement. I mean, this stuff is pouring in all the time. And if you don't communicate and you don't keep up to date with what's going on, not just in Australia, because this is the other thing about IP, it's global. It really is global. I mean, with the internet, my YouTube videos are going up everywhere. What else have we got on that? Patent law. I mean, you are getting research collaborations that potentially can end cancer forming across country boundary lines. You are getting this kind of sophisticated data swapping. And as a result, you've got products of that research that emerge. How do you protect them? whose countries are protected in, who gets the patent rights. I mean, this is all big ticket stuff, and this is why I keep saying participate, discuss, communicate, because this is a really vital tip for you guys in terms of coming in at that 7 standard like I was talking about before. You're not going to get there just by, it's not, for example, like contract law where, you know, those good old contract cases from 1653 are still on foot, you know, and you can churn them out and they're trusty. You might have a few modern takes on them, but essentially it's the same principle. IP, it's kind of like, it's the legal equivalent of Game of Thrones. You know, you never know which character is going to be killed off next. And that's the thing that I love about it. And that's the thing that you've got to stay up to speed with. Because half the time, you turn your head, you turn it back, and the IP right has changed. I mean, I did my PhD in patent law on the whole area of fair basing. And that's gone now from the whole patent legislation. It's just disappeared. They've taken out the words fair basing and put it in, I think it says something like, has to be supported by. So my whole thesis is now garbage material. And, you know, it wasn't that long ago. Yes, it was. 15 years now. But, I mean, it was out of date by about 10 years post. So this is the thing. Communicate, stay up to date. If you can, get onto Twitter. Get onto Twitter, because I'm just pumping out the stuff that I get in pretty much on a daily basis. So do that. Give me a great critical paper at the end of term. Do a nice presentation for me and play happily with all your colleagues. No hits below the belt. Keep it clean, and you'll come up with a great mark, I'm sure, in this unit. That's kind of it for my G-Up pep talk. Did you want to get into the problem for this week, or would you like to? I have my IP Ready Reckoner here, which I can screen share with you. Did you want to just quickly kind of bumble our way through looking at the IP Ready Reckoner and working out the duration of each of the IP rights? What would you guys like to do? Who wants to look at the problem? Okay, who wants to look at the Ready Reckoner? No? Oh, the Ready Reckoner? Okay, let's do the Ready Reckoner then. Okay, I will share my screen now. Everything's disappeared. Okay. Now, can you guys, I can't see you guys when I'm sharing, so can you now see everything? Can someone just audibly?
Yes, I can see stuff.
Can anybody else confirm audibly?
Yes. Yes, I can see.
Great.
I can see too.
Oh, great. Okay. So this is just a little, actually just a copy and paste of the IP Ready Reckoner that I have in the bowels of your week 1 materials somewhere. Yes, there it is. So it starts on page 4, unfortunately, and goes through over to page 5 of your week 1 materials. I did kind of want it all on one page, so it was beautiful, but I'm afraid you'll have to put up with not beautiful in your notes. So having a little look at copyright. Can anybody audibly, because I'm flying blind here, can anybody audibly tell me what the duration of copyright is, or what you think it might be? Shall we have a look? Someone want to say heck yes or absolutely not? Have I lost everybody?
Yes, please.
Okay. As I said, I'm flying blind here, so let me know. All right. So can you all see the Copyright Act here? Yes?
Yes.
I can.
All right. As we'll find out next week, there are 2 main groupings of protectable copyright items. The first are called original literary, dramatic, musical, artistic works. These are the typical works that you think of in your head when you think of literary, you know, when you think of a fabulous book that you've read, like, Game of Thrones. Dramatic pieces, musical pieces, your favourite music. You'll kind of understand the more videos of mine that you see that I'm hopelessly addicted to music. Artistic works as well. So if you look at section 33, you will find, here we are, the magical duration of copyright in works, 70 years. Okay, so if we go back to our Word document, for works, it's 70 years. And for subject matter other than works, you go back to sections 93 to 96. 93 to 96. And here is your next major grouping of protectable copyright items. Okay, you can see here, sound recordings, films, TV broadcasts, sound broadcasts, published editions. And I won't go into each of these sections because we'll run too far over time. But for copyright and sound recordings, you are looking at 70 years after the year in which those sound recordings were published. For 50 years in terms of broadcasts, and 25 years for published editions. Okay, I forgot to say films, so 70 years for films as well. So 70 for sound recordings and films, 50 for broadcasts, 25 for published editions. Okay, so if we go back to our Word document, I'm still getting used to my Mac. Okay, so here it varies from 70 to 50 to 25 years, depending on which of the subject matter other than works that you're talking about. For designs, we can go over to the Designs Act. And for designs, we'll talk about this really briefly at the very tail end of the copyright material for week 2. As I said, I think in the introductory video, I also say it in the copyright video for week 2, designs are not accessible in this unit. So right away I can see people switching off. But you probably need to know just the bare minimum, and that's probably what I put in the copyright video for you at the end of the copyright video that I've put up for week 2. So for designs, if you go down and have a little look at section 46, you can see you get 10 years. Okay, that's it, and you're done and dusted. So comparatively speaking, a lot less protection than copyright, but I go into some of the reasons behind that in the week 2 video. So here we have just 10 years. Confidential information. Now, this might be something that you've covered in equity. Anyone cover the equitable action for breach of confidence? Or was that too far ago, too long ago?
It was a while back.
A while back? Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, you're going to be able to bring that action for breach of confidence within your limitation of actions for starting your proceedings. So it's not so much that you're protected for a certain term, obviously, because confidential information is not actually a proprietary right. So you haven't got your nice little separate piece of legislation for that. And so it really boils down to when the conduct occurred or when it's about to occur and how timely your proceedings are, okay? But confidential information or trademarks are, well, potentially a perpetual right that you can, protect. So have a little look at the copyright video, sorry, not the copyright video, the confidential information stuff, which will be going up either tonight or tomorrow, just depending on how long it takes YouTube to process that video. But trade secrets are potentially protectable forever. You look at good old Coca-Cola, that's a prime example. Okay, so going back to our document, usual limitations here, plus you need to think about whether you've kept the information secret as required. And we'll talk about that more in week 3. Patents. Does anybody know how long we get for patents?
I think it's 20 years for a standard patent.
It most certainly is. Is that Jessica? Well done,
It is,
Jessica.
yeah.
Yes, absolutely. 20 years from the date of filing, okay? 20 years. Now, whilst you are not getting the huge amount of years that copyright gets, patents are probably a stronger form of protection. So a lot of people say, wow, 20-year period of protection for patents, that's probably too long. It started out a lot less than that, and it's grown and grown, and we're now at 20. Plus, if you are a pharmaceutical company, you may get an extra 5 years, depending on how long it takes for your drug actually to get out to market and pass through all the paperwork that you have to pass through. If you're in the US through the Food and Drug Administration, or if you're here through the therapeutic goods legislation and all the associated pharmacy legislation. So 20 years there. Trademarks. Does anyone know how long you get for trademarks? No? Again, this is a rolling 10-year registration. However, you can renew that registration indefinitely. So it's potentially perpetual, which is quite awesome if you own a very famous mark, something like Coca-Cola. It will help you in terms of your competitive edge and your retention of your market segment if you have a strong trademark to back up your business model. So potentially perpetual there, which is amazing. Passing off, the action for passing off. You are going to be protected there. Anyone remember passing off? Who did passing off? Did you do that in contract at all? When you were doing, here I am, back at you guys. Did you do that at all when you were talking about actions for misrepresentation before passing off? No?
We did it in Talk B.
You did it in Torts B. Okay. So for passing off, it's a little bit like, I guess, any other common law action that you're going to bring. So you've got to think about the statute of limitations as to when the conduct occurred. And you need to be able to demonstrate by way of your evidence your relevant reputation, don't you, in the marketplace? Because if you don't have a reputation, then why is anybody going to pass off their goods as yours or somehow associated with your name? Misleading and deceptive conduct. Where are we looking at there? Who remembers this bit? It's in the Competition and Consumer Act. Anyone remember what section we look at there?
18.
Ah, good job. Is that Joselito?
Yeah.
Oh, it's Jacob. Nice one, Jacob. Yep, section 18.
I didn't. Oh, it says section 18. So you must have misheard me. I was going to say 23. See, I got
That's close. Yeah, I never was very good at maths. It's only 5 difference. Okay, so section 18 of the Competition and Consumer Act there. And when I taught corporations law, I used to briefly go through restrictive trade practices. You guys will have done corporations law. Did you go through the restrictive trade practices section of the Competition and Consumer Act there? Restraints of trade? No?
That was in commercial law, I remember.
Commercial law? Okay.
No, sorry, commercial law. Was it? I don't remember.
Yeah, I used to teach it in alongside corporations, so that kind of sounds about right. So if we go and have a wee look at the Competition and Consumer Act, okay, so we are looking here at sections 45 through to 51. And these are the main sections that we'll be talking about later on when we're talking about anti-competitive use of intellectual property rights, okay? So the main big ticket sections here that you probably should have a quick look at, but certainly in the week that we're talking about anti-competitive uses of IP, I would recommend you look at sections 45, contracts, arrangements or understanding that restrict dealings or affect competition. I would also look at section 46, misuse of market power. I would look at section 47, exclusive dealing. I mean, there's no real magic to any of these. Exclusive dealing is just basically the idea of, you know, when you buy something from someone, they tell you not to buy the same thing from anyone else, okay? Resale price maintenance, so you sell something to your distributors on the basis that they'll maintain the prices that you set for them. And exceptions. I'd be also looking at exceptions there, and there's a nice little one. I'll actually take you to this one. Now it's, there we go. There's a nice little exception that applies just in relation to intellectual property. And people have been fighting over this ridiculous exception for the better part of 20 years. And have a read of it. Here's a challenge for you. Post to me or tweet to me your understanding of Section 51(3) of the Competition and Consumer Act, because if you work it out, please let me know, because the rest of academia is waiting. It is one of the most obtuse sections of legislation I think you'll probably ever have the delight of reading, perhaps apart from some of the sections of the Copyright Act. So there you have, in a nutshell, the relevant forms of IP right that we will be discussing this term. Now let me just see if I can stop screen sharing. How do I stop screen sharing? Let's just see. Vanessa chats. Okay. Contacts. I am, oh, there we go. Close. Now, corporate account. Hang on. I can't stop my screen sharing for some weird reason. Can you see me or, there we go, up the top. Stop share. Hey, a big red button. What do you know? We're back. Okay, so that's the IP Ready Rec now. Hopefully you'll be able to use that as a nice little concise guide for yourself when you're walking through the materials of a week. And it's nice to just keep it, just print off as I did. Make it onto one page and just print it off for yourself, whack it into your notes. Then you've got it with you as you're doing your weekly readings each week. Any queries on that? No?
Actually, yes.
Yes.
I'm just wondering quickly, this section 51 subsection 3 that you've just mentioned, has there been any reference by the courts to it? Because I haven't actually looked at it, so.
Look, from what let me just flick back to it. Let me go to the noter up, because you know that you can note up from Ostley here. I haven't I haven't actually looked for, it looks as though there's a few references there. However, unless there's been something wildly exciting, all of the cases that I saw discussing this section were really just verbal expressions of head scratching. You know, it's one of those provisions. I'm sure that some little person in some little government department that drafted up the legislation thought they were doing a wonderful job at, but unfortunately probably should have been overseen by a more experienced mentor. We've had so many law reform statements and critiques of this provision that by now the latest ones are just saying, get rid of it. Get rid of it. You really shouldn't need an exception for intellectual property rights. You know, this is not the sort of thing that we should be allowing people to escape the main restraint provision, restrictive trade practices provisions from. Just because it's IP doesn't necessarily mean that you should be free to engage in conduct that would otherwise be a restrictive trade practice. You know, and I think that sentiment, I would that a big fat tick myself. Any other queries on that? Oh, sorry, Bianca, I cut you off.
No, you're right. I just was curious because I hadn't actually looked at that section myself, and yeah, I hadn't done the note up, so I was just wondering if there were any specific court decisions that you were referring to.
Nothing that really clarifies things, and
Okay.
hence we still have in pretty much every law reform inquiry, white paper discussion, anything of any consequence. You know, you've got people saying, just get rid of the darn thing. It's useless. And I probably would agree. That's just my opinion.
That's fine. Yep.
Anyway, if anyone does have an epiphany and realises what that little person in that little government department was actually trying to do with that provision, tweet it, let me know, and I would be more than interested. We won't go through the problem because we have 1 minute left. But before we kind of close the formal part of things off, is there any last minute queries or questions about what we've been through today? No, you're all little happy chappies so far. It's only week 1, isn't it? So we're all happy. Wait till week 11. No. Have you all got your grades from last term? Sweet. Awesome. It's always nice to have those on your belt, hey? Okay. Well, it has now turned the witching hour of 7 p.m. If you want to stay back, I've told the kids that they can have dinner at about 7:10, so I have some time to quickly chat with you on a less formal basis. If you want to just shoot me through some questions, I'll stop the recording now for the folks at home. Bye, and hopefully I'll see you next week. And I will press the